Hi, welcome. Welcome to Money Talks for Women, financial clinic, workshop, free workshop. And hey, we're back. We're normal. We're here where this is now the official beginning. We're going to have so much fun tonight, and I'm excited to have a do-over, another new beginning. I was told by my friend, my very good friend, Patricia, that this is a new moon week after all. So we all get entitled, we are entitled to fresh new beginnings. And so I just wanted to say, hi, everybody, shout out if you are here, give me a thumbs up, a hi in the chat, let me know you're here, where you're from. And I just wanted an opportunity to welcome you. And really, this is just a special evening for me. Hi, Rhonda. So happy that you're here. Thank you for your note, Rhonda. That was so sweet of you. You know, last night was an interesting false start, but not really a false start. It was just the fact that I was in an ER room, emergency room with my mother, who had had a fall last week. And you know, when being nearly 100, you just have to really take very, very good care of these beautiful elderlies, right? But she's still there tonight, but she's doing much, much, much better. And so I just want to thank you for all of your texts, your emails, your outreaches of concern and of support. Last night, she was quite a trooper, and we actually recorded right there from her emergency room before all the doctors came in. So I just wanted to thank you. And Rhonda, yes, you're here from Baltimore in the house. Yes, and wishing you and your mom a wonderful recovery. Thank you so much. James, you're here. And oh, Jody, how's your mom? Yeah. She's actually doing really well. She's doing really well. You know, she's just being treated for some bruises and bumps. And, you know, bless her heart, at the age of nearly 100, you just get to do whatever you want to do. She just needs to relax and have somebody bring her hot meals. She probably would have preferred to go to a hotel, right? Anyway, I just want to thank you again. Those of you who are watching the replay, a big shout out to you. You can easily watch this replay on my website, lynnekitchen.com, because we're going to have this broadcast for all of those who have registered, but have also told me that they couldn't make it tonight for whatever reason, but they wanted to catch the replay. So I just want to thank you all for your support, and welcome back to day's beginning of the free workshop, 5 days to money freedom. What does that mean, money freedom? What does that mean to you, money freedom? Do you want to put in the chat if you have a definition of what money freedom really means to you? What would it taste like? What would it smell like? What would it feel like? What would it be like if you had a life where you could really truly say you were free monetarily, that you had financial freedom, that you have? Maybe some of you do. Maybe some of you have financial freedom and you already know what it feels like, and you just want to have more. And that's great too. James says, no debt. No doubt we want no debt. No doubt we want no debt. Okay. So that means that you have no debt, meaning no burden, nothing that's holding you down, nothing that is weighing you down, and obviously nothing that is taking your hard-earned money and siphoning it off to pay interest rates that are incurred because you needed the money at one point, so you put it on a credit card, you put it you made some effort to have a credit sometime along in the past, right? And it would be an amazing opportunity for you to actually have all your money going toward the kinds of things that mean the most to you now, right? Instead of paying other people interest, you want them to pay you interest, right? Wouldn't that be part of feeling well about your money? Absolutely. All right, I get a yay on that. Oh, Jody. Hi, Jody. Thank you for being here. Gosh, my friend Jody is back. Jody says, financial freedom to her would be no worries. I really agree with that. I do believe that worry is one of the number one stressors in our lives, especially as women. I understand that there are so many psychological studies out there that say that money is the number one worry that women worry about. We go to bed worried about money, and this is something that we want to conquer. We want to make sure that we equate money in the positive category, not in the worry category. And there are ways to do that. So you're in the right place, Jody. Thanks for being here. Rhonda says a balanced portfolio that would allow me to take care of family and myself into my 100s, living a great lifestyle. Now, that is a wonderful definition. I just want to say hands up to that, Rhonda. That's a great definition of financial freedom. So thank you for that. Yeah, James says, I want what Rhonda wants. No kidding. Let's put a big heart. Everybody put a big heart. I want that too. Well, you're all in the right place because, hi, Olivia. Hey, welcome back. I'm really, really happy to see you. Olivia is one of the founding inaugural members of Money Talks for Women courses. She was one of the first to jump in and take the course inside the Money Clinic. And so we're going to hear from several of the students that began in January 2023. I had a wonderful group of students who began in January, and they've actually already finished their first course. And now we're going to begin the second course starting in March. And I'll tell you more about that. But certainly tonight, I'm really wanting to kind of give you an introduction to what is a financial clinic, what are we all up to, what is the opportunity for you, and how can you better your life as a result if it's something that you feel is a good fit for you. And so tonight is really all about giving you a taste. I'm going to take you on a little journey tonight. I'm going to give you a taste of what it would feel like if you were inside the financial clinic learning some tools and techniques for your own personal financial care, for your own personal financial well-being, for your own personal financial money management skills. How does that sound? We'll have a little taste tonight. And then tomorrow night, I'm really going to ramp up the conversation. Tomorrow night, I'm going to go full speed ahead, and I'm going to actually give you a taste of something that's really quite special as it relates to investment. So we have two worlds, really. One is talking about how do we manage our current money? How do we maximize the amount of money that we do have, that we want to have? And then secondly, how do we manage those monies and invest and build for a monetary future that's going to give us the financial freedom that we're all really looking for? So really, there's two parts of that. And we're going to start tonight with mindset, because it all starts with how do we think? How do we think about our money? And of course, that's true of anything, isn't it? You've all been through courses, I know, of all kinds of mindset courses. Now more than ever, I think the world is very, very, very educated in terms of how our minds setting intentions and the thoughts that we think and how we really believe about certain things that affect us, that we actually cause it to happen, right? The way we perceive things actually alters the actual reality of our lives. And the quality of the questions that we ask ourselves always determines the quality of our lives. So these things we already know, these concepts, these precepts, these principles we already know. But I believe that as it relates to money, maybe we have a little bit of a gap. just a little bit of a gap. And that gap is called reality, right? Reality gets in the way. Reality gets in the way. And I just think also that possibly as I look upon, the industries, the financial industry and other industries, I see a lot of people making a lot of money, but not really teaching others how to maximize their wealth in general, and especially women. So here I am, ready to teach, ready to bring to you what I hope is going to be some really good value. Now, let me segue just a second and say what qualifies me. For those of you who are new, I want to welcome you, who have never seen me before, who have, found yourself here by some hook or crook, or somebody perhaps invited you to be here. Maybe somebody said you've just absolutely got to come to the Money Talks for Women. Well, welcome. I just will give you a quick background of my story. And it was that my first career was a 34-year career in the money management world. I had, right out of college, I was a young stockbroker right out of college. And I just want you to know, if you are the kind of gal who knows nothing, zippo about stocks, about bonds, about commodities, or anything financially, you're not alone. I was one of those gals. I had no clue. All I knew was that I was broke. I was broke, and I knew what that felt like. I was so broke that I was feeling sorry for myself, even though I had gotten through college by hook or by crook in some way. I actually put myself through college, and I was working the whole time, selling door to door, store to store, school to school. I was selling anything. So I knew I could sell. So when I got into the brokerage business at a time in the early 1970s, it was a time when women were not allowed to be stockbrokers right off the bat. Now, that has changed totally. But back then, if you were a woman, there was just a bias. That's all. There was a bias. And the bias went like this. You needed to be really well trained first before you could be trusted to be one-on-one with the client. So they would say, okay, you could be a secretary to a stockbroker for about, a decade, or you could be an assistant in the back office for another decade. But, that wasn't really my idea. My idea was, I felt I was a good salesman, and I wanted to be able to prove myself. So I kept knocking on doors right out of college saying, hey, I want an opportunity to get into the money business. Why? Because I thought at the time, I had a really powerful question in my mind. Here's the question. If I really wanted a lot of money in my life, why wouldn't I go into the business of money and learn about it? Why wouldn't I go learn about it? And I knew nothing at the time. Zero, zip, nothing. Even after 4 years of college, I still knew nothing. Of course, I didn't major in finance. So I jumped in to be a young stockbroker with a major company, Dean Witter Reynolds at the time, which was one of the top 5. You had Merrill Lynch, Payne Weber, it was one of the top 5. And they took me in as on probation. I was on probation, which meant that I had higher standards of sales that I had to meet every month in order to stay a stockbroker, otherwise out of there. And as it turned out, I really began to excel and made all of my quotas quite quickly. But I was surrounded by men. Of course you are. Of course, I was one of very few women at the time who were actually a stockbroker. Anyway, I had 4 years in the majors. The first 2 with Dean Witter, the second 2 with Oppenheimer and Company. I was helping in their institutional trading desk. And after 4 years of being with the major firms, I really had an uncomfortable feeling about some of the products that the big companies wanted me to sell. In other words, I felt unethical about some of them. And I won't go into that story, but it is a story, interesting story for another day. Instead, I decided that I wanted to go independent, which was a total left field idea at the time. In fact, looking back, I think I was half crazy, but I had a good mentor, a really good mentor who had his own broker dealership at the time on Wall Street in New York City. And he said, yeah, you're a girl, but you could do this. I'll show you how. And so he showed me how, just, to get all the paperwork done. And step by step by step by step, I learned. I knew nothing about having my own stock brokerage firm, but I said, if it's possible, why not? I can learn about it. So I did. I learned, and I was one of the first women on the West Coast to open my own broker dealership. Of course, there were many women on the East Coast in Wall Street, but at the time, in the late 70s and early 80s, very, very few. So I took a big risk, opened my own broker dealership, built it up, actually hired other women at the time, quite a few men too, and had a very good, healthy business. I built it up and I sold it. I sold my first brokerage company after about 10 years. And then I had an opportunity given to me where I could join another investment advisory firm. They were looking for somebody who knew how to manage a financial company. And so I became a 1/3 owner and executive of investment advisory firm in California. And for the next 15 years, I enjoyed a really unbelievable career building that firm, which we eventually sold. So I've actually built and sold 2 investment advisory firms in my career. Well, what I loved the most in that career was not only the learning curve, because I guess maybe I'm just a lifelong learner, but how much fun it was to help others build their portfolios, build their wealth, and actually see the joy and the difference that it made over time in their families. There were times when we would, we have a big bull market and their portfolios would go up in value very quickly. And they would call me and say, hey, I want to peel off $50,000 so that I could send my grandson or my granddaughter to college. So we would do that. We would have a lot of fun and have a little ceremony where we would peel off $50,000 out of their portfolio, send it to them. And those were fun moments for me when we actually had achievements, that tangible achievements that meant something in the growth of people's personal wealth. And then over time, we had goals and milestones that we wanted to create. And we had a lot of fun doing that. And it was a wonderful opportunity to work hand in hand with people who wanted to build wealth and also wanted to build generational wealth. Do you know what that is? Generational wealth. That's building so much wealth that you have enough to share with your next generation, that you have more than enough. Like you were saying before, I have no worries, I have no debt, and I have more than enough. And that's when you have the opportunity to share with your next generation, your children's children, and maybe even create a foundation for yourself, or maybe even fund a nonprofit that means something to you, and do the kinds of things that we have in our hearts, our dreams, our hopes and dreams. Is that right, ladies? How many of you here have hopes and dreams that might require some money that you want to fund? Your dreams over time? How many of you here put a big, I have that. I have a dream. Yes, you do. I know that you do. There you are. Hearts. Yes, absolutely. Thumbs up. We women have dreams. We're not here to be small. We're not here to play small anymore. So I did have a 34-year career. It was wonderful. It was cut short, however, boom, 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 by a surprise. How many of us have surprises that happen to us? Mine happened to be a health challenge 2 bouts of cancer, stage 4. Oops. Well, partly it's because of the stress, maybe some of the worries, but long story short, I did retire, moved here to Florida where I still live now, married my sweetheart. He actually was a executive on Wall Street as well. And that's another story for another day. But we spoke the same language. I mean, we could really talk money. We could really, but in the early days, he would give me stock tips because he was actually an analyst on Wall Street, a stock analyst in the area of the banking industry. So when I needed some advice on what banking stock to buy for my clients, I would call him and say, what do you got? And he would give me the whole story. But anyway, I retired after 34 years. I moved down here to Florida. I married my sweetheart. And I spent the next 10 years exploring different parts of myself. And what that looked like was, well, I became a life coach. I became a television producer. It was really fun to just look at different creative aspects of myself rather than being so, money. And I guess that's called left brain. And then moving to the other part of my brain and being more creative. That television show, actually, World's Greatest Motivators, led to my feeling like, well, what about me? I was promoting so many other people whose messages really I do believe in. They're fabulous, motivational, inspirational, best of the best mentors on our planet today. And I had an opportunity to study with them. And at the same time, I thought, well, what is seeking to be expressed within me? And I had a little epiphany, or a big epiphany last summer that said, hey, you don't want to die, do you, with all of that knowledge still left in you, buried and not shared? And the answer to that was, no, I don't want to not share this knowledge, because after 34 years of being in any industry, I don't care if you're a doctor, a lawyer, an Indian chief, if you've spent 34 years in any industry at the level of an executive, I think you have something to share, and it's maybe an obligation. So here I am. I have opened a financial clinic for women. It is a brand new idea. It's relatively new, and I am so proud of it. I am giving you an invitation this week to get a taste about what it feels like, what it's all about, and see if it's going to be something that will empower you, to see if it's something that you can feel like you can begin to learn again. Maybe it's been a long time since you've learned something new, but I ask you this question: would it be worth it to you? Is your money freedom important enough to you? Are you willing to become a little bit uncomfortable in the interest of growth, so that maybe some of your financial worries can be a thing of the past? What do you think? How does that resonate with you? Would you be willing to make a little bit of a leap so that 10 years from now, your total financial picture could be different? And if there's a yes to that in your heart, you don't have to put that in the chat, but if you're feeling a yes kind of tugging at you, then you're in the right place. You're in the right place, and together we can just begin to see what it is that is the most meaningful to you. In other words, I don't want this to be a waste of your time. I want this to be a thrilling opportunity for you to learn something that's really going to make a difference in your life. Good gosh, we've been through enough classes that don't really make a difference, that don't really do, even though they promise that they would. So what's really going to matter to you? What really matters to you most now? Because, you know, I'm really tired of what doesn't matter anymore. Aren't you? I'm just really tired of my old self that doesn't want to be, you know, with it. I'm sure we're all tired of our old money selves. The way we think about things in the past is not working. It's not creating the kind of freedom, right, that we want today. And so if you're feeling that way, there's got to be a way that we can kind of sift through, discard, uncover, recover, and really regrow some brand new branches on your tree so that you can become far more confident, capable, and creative in your own money management so that you can create wealth. Are you all for that? If you are, put a thumbs up in the chat and then I'll get started. Put a thumbs up in the chat if you're all on board with that. Thumbs up. I can see the thumbs up coming. All right, thumbs up, thumbs up. Good deal. Well, I'm going to just share with you my screen real quickly, because last night we started out with some of your questions, and I'm just going to I want to start there again tonight. Some of your questions, well, actually, these were some of your concerns on what was it that's holding you back. And I think I covered a few of these last night. And again, thank you so much for sharing these, your answers to the question of what was it that you feel were holding you back, and these limiting beliefs, how to value myself more, who can I trust, how can I get started, I never seem to have enough, how can I get rid of my money blocks, how can I make more money, how can I get rid of the fear of loss, how much risk do I need to be taking, how can I get no more dependency on my investment manager? Boy, I love that one. By the way, put a pin in that. We'll come back around to that, and I've got quite a few opinions on that. And then I had asked you some questions on what is the number one top investing question or frustration that causes you the most anxiety. And here's what you wrote back, some of them. Narrowing the options because to get the outcomes that I desired. So narrowing the options. There's so many options out there, aren't there? It's mind-boggling, the number of choices in the world. And then a frustration is low risk tolerance. Again, that's pops up. How to generate a return that is substantial. I love the word substantial. Substantial enough, right? We want it to be substantial, but not just substantial. We want it to be substantial enough so that we can create wealth. I don't know how. I just want to kiss whoever it was who said that. Don't know how. Because that's where I really resonate with that part within all of us that we just don't know how. Where do we go to learn the how? You know, it's been told that we have to have the right thoughts. We have to have the right vibration. We have to call in the correct thinking, the mindset. And yet there is this thing called how. The hows of the world in the financial area is just more finite than, than everybody else wants to make it sound. So there are lots of people who are money coaches and this coaches and that coaches and mindset coaches and 10x coaches and all of these people who have a lot of worthy things to teach. And yet, are they teaching the how? I haven't seen very much of it. And there are there are people teaching how. But what I would love is for you to have a place that you can go to, ladies, where you feel comfortable, where you feel safe to ask questions, to feel like you aren't alone, to feel like even if you are afraid to ask a question because you feel inferior, or you think that it's a dumb question or whatever, which it happens a lot in the financial industry, that you can come forth, that you can ask your questions, that we can actually dive into the how and uncover and discover the real hows and get you from point A to point B in a record period of time, so that we can accelerate who it is that you want to be in the world, how you can fund your dreams, and let's get going. And that's all what I'm wanting to accomplish inside the financial clinic. So I'm going to get just started here to just share a couple of slides that I prepared for you. Money Talks for Women. Special place. You're invited. This is it. This is my thesis. This is my theme. Inside every woman is an ace money manager, ladies. That means you. Inside you already exists an ace money manager. Now, you may not believe that. You may not think that. You may really argue with me. You might say, oh, Lynn, that's for everybody else, but it's not me, because I have wasted all my money, because I am in debt, because I have grown up with all of these money blocks, because I'm not smart enough, or I don't have enough education, or I can't, or I don't have enough money, or I'm not making enough money. And all of these can'ts and don'ts and won'ts that's over. I mean, now inside every woman, there is a place within you that needs empowering. You have more power than you think. You have more knowledge than you think. You have more experience than you think. You just don't know that yet. So I'm here to tell you, most women have more understanding in their little pinky than they really give themselves credit for. If you have ever raised a child, if you have managed a household budget, you could be an ace money manager. You could give yourself credit as an ace money manager. If you have ever managed a department inside a corporation, if you have ever managed a classroom as an educator, you are an ace money manager. And it doesn't even have to be money that you're managing all the time. It's assets. People are assets. Okay, so it's amazing how much money, how much power and experience that women already have, and we just discount it up till now, because now there's a place within you that's just going to get empowered by me and all the other ladies who have already said yes to the financial clinic, because they're already inside the financial clinic and they are learning and they are growing and they're saying, you know what? I am a better financial manager than I was yesterday, because I learned something today. And so, and you can be there too. So an ace money manager is a woman who has raised her hand and said, you know what, that's me. I want to learn more. Well, you may not have given yourself that kind of credit in the past, but starting today, you can. Starting now, you will. Starting today, you can. This is the beginning of your journey into financial freedom, into financial understanding that you too can be wealthy, that you can be healthy, that you can have the wealth of health and the wealth of relationships and the wealth of money. But it's going to require one thing. Make a decision. Make a decision. Are you willing to make a new decision? Whatever the past has been, that can be then. this can be now. You can make a new decision. You can decide to be an ace money manager. What do I mean by an ace money manager? That's a woman who is standing up for herself. She's willing to learn some new skills. She's willing to say, you know, I may not have done everything right up till now, but I'm ready to learn how to do it right. And I don't have enough time left to waste any more time anymore. I want what I want. I love what I want, and let's go. You have to decide, and decide to be wealthy. You know, that's the number one thing. Do you really want to be wealthy? If so, there's a way to get wealthy. There are decisions to make that will help you do this rather than that rather than this. In other words, to focus on what is it, what are those money decisions that will help you move in the direction of wealth rather than in the direction of debt, rather than in the direction of non-wealth. And so it's a decision. And what's really going to come down to is a decision to learn more. And that's not so hard, is it? That's really not that hard, is it? I mean, actually, I've been a lifelong learner. I learn something new every day. And I hope that you'll learn something tonight, because even in the next 3 days, we're going to have so much fun to learn something new that actually, last time we did this, I was told that in 5 days, the people who were here, who were live for all of the 5 days, learned more in 5 days than they had learned in the financial world in 5 decades. I believe it, because, you know, I've got some wonderful things to teach you that I'll bet you've never learned before, or you've never even heard of before, as it relates to money management. So here again, let me get back to this. Women, we really know more than we think we do. We have an intelligence that is a very, very high level of intelligence as women. We are optimists by nature. We are realists by nature. And we actually know good value. And so this is a little chart that I kind of like, because there is a cycle of investing, and there's a cycle of knowing good value. All you have to do is ask yourself, when is the best time to buy a really great, fuzzy, warm winter coat? Anybody want to put that in the chat? When is the best time to buy a very good, fuzzy winter coat? Yeah, it's in the summer when the prices are down, right? When the prices are way down. And when's a good time to buy a really expensive, I mean, really expensive, sexy swimming suit, you know, with maybe a matching cover-up to go with it. Well, it's going to be what? Anybody want to put that in the chat? Yeah, it's at the end of summer when, okay, it's in the fall. Women know good value. You know what is good value. Those of you who are real estate investors who have purchased great real estate at great values, you really had a sixth sense, didn't you, of when those real estate purchases were either at a good value or at a discount to being a good value. In other words, a bargain. I didn't want to say it, but really women know bargains when we see them. We just know. We have had a lifelong learning of good bargains and good value. And the only difference is we've never really applied it. Many of us have never really applied it to the financial markets. We've never really applied it to our own money. We've never really applied it to that, but it's learnable. It's really easy, quite learnable. And the only thing that's holding a lot of people back, I believe, are our own emotions. You know, women, they say that women is very emotional, you know, that's part of our being, that's part of our makeup. But actually, I think it's a strength, because in the markets, in the financial markets, emotions really tell us everything that we need to know. Excitements. This is a little chart. Excitement, euphoria, fear, panic, hope, relief. These are emotions that I'm sure that you all have felt at some time in your life as it relates to your money. Am I right? Thumbs up on that. Very easy to have emotions as it relates to money. Well, stick around, because inside the financial clinic, I'm going to teach you how to recognize when when you can stand up with your money and become great investors, usually. And it's going to be at a time when nobody else wants these assets, when people are afraid, when they're panicked, when they have fear, when they have desperation. So this is a great, I think, chart anyway, that you'll see more and more. I'll bring this out more and more, but let's just go over this real quickly here. I want to point something out. 1 year ago, this year, 1 year ago, in February of March, I would say January, February, 1 year ago, 2022. Here it is, 2023. 1 year ago, we were at the maximum point, right where the arrow is, at the maximum point of the markets. After 10, 12 years of a raging bull market in the stock market, in the real estate market, in the commodity markets, we were in the area of euphoria. A lot of people were really quite numb, and they didn't know that that was the ultimate top of financial risk. That was when most people holding on to their financial assets were at the highest risk. Why? Because it was at the top of the market, but we didn't know that until looking back in the rearview mirror. Well, now a year later, we can see, my goodness, that was the top of at least that 10-year cycle. Now, how far down the slope have we come in the year 2022, moving into 23? Have you felt anxiety? How about denial? Denial is an interesting emotion. That's when we don't open our monthly statements that come in the mail, if they come in the mail anymore, or if they're on your computer, you don't want to open them up. You don't want to look at them. That's denial. Fear, you feel fear that you're losing much of your money, even though it's on paper, a lot of it. Desperation, panic, capitulation. And at the very bottom, people get pretty depressed over the prices going down pretty fast. And that's not just in the stock market. The real estate markets have come down quite dramatically, and certainly with mortgage rates going up, we've seen quite a bit of shifting and changing. Although I would suffice it to say that we're probably not in the area of the very low depression yet. Certainly not. We haven't seen panic, capitulation, despondency, and depression yet, but I have lived through those. I have lived through all of those in different markets. I'll always remember the crash of 1987. That was panic. Oh boy, that was a time when I nearly lost my business. Portfolios easily went down 34%, 30 to 40%, sometimes 50% if you were on margin in 3 days. Like, that's panic. I know what that feels like. I've been through all of those ups and downs. I really understand what it feels like, and I can actually intuitively feel where we are in those markets. And I'm going to be able to teach you inside the financial markets, where are we? Where are we in these times, so that you can feel whether it's time to step up and buy, or maybe it's time to step up and buy a little, and also how to manage how much you step up and buy with. These are kinds of interesting ways that women can get more in touch with their intuitive nature of value and those emotions that really, I believe, are God-given gifts to us, ladies. We don't want to deny them anymore. When it comes to money, there is a way that we can learn to be in touch with our emotions and then intuitively use those times wisely How many of you have had intuitive moments when you felt like you were knocked on the head? This is a question I'd like you to answer in the chat if you would. How many of you have had an intuitive moment when you knew it was either time to buy or time to sell? How many of you have had some kind of an intuitive moment that you just knew you should have sold then? There was something in you, or on the contrary, how many of you have had an intuitive moment when you just knew something was at such a bargain price? You just knew it was the time to buy, but then you talked yourself out of it, or somebody talked you out of it. There's how many? I mean, probably 1,000 times in over one's lifetime that you've had these intuitive moments as it relates to your money, ladies, and you have denied it, excused it, buried it, hidden it, maybe deferred to somebody else who said that they were more expert than you, maybe a spouse, I mean, how many of us have done that? It's actually, yes, exactly. There's the thumbs up. Oh my gosh, thumbs up all over the place. Well, it's true. The thing that I want to suggest is that we have, as women, a lot more understanding about these things than we give ourselves credit for. As we move into a learning where we are in any economic cycle, we begin to learn how we can invest our money, how we can first save our money strategically in order to invest our money. And there is a time for investing and a time for saving. Of course, there's always a time to get out of debt. That's first. But there's a time for everything. There's a time for learning. There's a time to buy, and there's a time to sell. As a matter of fact, the financial markets are nothing but cycles. There's a time for everything. Something comes into favor, and then it goes out of favor. And then it comes back into favor, and it goes out of favor. And money sloshes back in, and then it sloshes back out. And the oil prices go up, and then the oil prices go down. And then we have a financial cycle where the banking industry gets hot, and then we have a cycle where the banking industry gets cold. And then we have a technology cycle where the .com gets hot, and then when the .com crashes. I'll always remember the year 2000. The year 2000 was the .com crash. 2000, 2001. That was interesting. Well, over time, then we have bigger cycles and smaller cycles. Business cycles tend to be longer in nature. This particular chart I like because the real dark columns, the darker columns are the ones in the background there. You can see the darker columns are recessions. The last recession that we had was this thicker, darker column right here where it says financial crisis. The last financial crisis was 07, 08. How many of you lived through that? The crisis before that was 2000, 2001. That was the .com crash. How many of you lived through that? We can go back to 1990. That was a very big crisis of the banking strains. And then before that, Black Monday. The oil crises. I've been managing money since 1976. So I have personally been through most of these cycles as a professional money manager, managing and having the responsibility to manage other people's portfolios. And that's no joke. When you're managing your own money, it can feel scary, but I invite you to think what it can feel like if you're managing millions and millions and millions of other people's monies, and you're going through these same cycles, and they look to you for those decisions to be made. That is when you really have to be sure of what you are doing. And so there is a technique that I have learned over the years that I always, and I will be teaching it inside the financial clinic. These techniques are ways that you can double check the assumptions that you make as money managers, that you are managing your own money, and you might be tempted to make a decision, and you want to learn the how of how do I really test that assumption? Is it a good investment? What makes it a good investment? How do I test those assumptions? And those are the kinds of things that are learnable. And I love teaching it. So you're in the right place. As a matter of fact, just to let you know, I actually, for 15 years, taught 2 adults investment courses for 15 years. It was inside the Pacific School of Finance in California, and we taught at night. And so I was a money manager in the daytime, and so I was really an investment teacher at night for 15 years teaching this. So I have a pretty good repertoire of what it is that I can teach you that will help you make better decisions. How does that sound? How does that sound? Oh, I have a question here on relying so much on investment managers. Yeah, well, good question, Anne. Thanks for your question. Having been an investment manager for over 34 years, I know what it means to be on that side of the desk. And I also know how many people, I believe, become dependent on the expertise or the advice of the so-called expert. And especially as women, I would like to just really quickly comment, thanks for Anne, that as women, I think that our perspective, maybe culturally, somehow we may have learned this, maybe through the behavior of our mothers, I'm not sure. But as it turns out, we have had an evolution of dependency as it relates to money. I think you would agree, right? And that really has played out quite strongly in the financial industry when women who have significant assets to be managed really will go to investment advisors and become quite dependent on anything they say, anything. Okay, you're the expert, you know more than I do, you tell me what to do. And they never really question, and they never really want to question, because they have the wrong impression that that investment advisor is being paid to do it for them. And that's really an incorrect assumption, because investment advisors are humans and they too make lots of mistakes. And if you are dependent on somebody else to do anything for you, especially manage your money, without knowing why that money manager is doing what they're doing with your money, then what you're really becoming is an ostrich in the sand. You're just an ostrich. You might be paying good financial fees to a so-called expert to manage your money, but if you don't follow or understand what it is that they are doing with your money, and you have no clue why, and you really don't even want to know why, because you just want to hand it over, then you're abdicating. You're abdicating your responsibility. So here's the other part. I mean, I can talk a long time about that, and I'll talk more about it at another date, but thanks, Anne, for your question. Over a period of time, here's a stock market chart of 100 years. I think last night I showed you this chart, but I love this chart. I just want you to see what it looks like over 100 years. What is the number one thing that you see here? What's the first impression that you see here as it relates to this chart? Can you believe seeing 100 years of the stock market? This happens to be the Standard & Poor's 500 chart since 1900. Since 1900, here we are in 2023. This chart just goes to 2019, but it's 100 years. You've got the world, look at that. You've got the roaring 20s, the World War II, and the first spike down was the Great Depression, the roaring 20s. Good gosh, that looks small today in comparison, doesn't it? Do you know people actually jumped out of windows, killed themselves? You know the stories of the Great Depression. Your mothers, your fathers probably have stories about the Great Depression. We all lived through many of the succeeding wars, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Reagan era, the tech boom, all of these things, the Cold War. All of these things make an impact on money, and why it is that we make decisions over time is because there is an economic underpinning to all decisions. And these are the things that in the financial clinic, I'm going to be looking at what is impacting you. What is impacting your decision today in today's economy that makes you feel like you want to run out and buy a certain asset? For example, real estate. What is it that makes you feel like you want to go out and buy a certain asset, like, let's say, in the stock market, perhaps Apple Computer or Tesla? What makes you feel like you want to go buy these assets? What causes you to feel like you're going to win with these assets over time because they're going to be more valuable in the future than they are today? What are those feelings that you as women really intuitively already know that makes you feel like tomorrow's value is going to be greater than today's value? That word value is the most important thing that I think that we can each understand over time, the concept of value. What is your future value over time? How do you take today's money, whatever you've got, whatever it is, whatever you've got, today's value, the value of your money today, just add it up. What is that? And how can you take that value and grow it so that over time you have a greater value, a greater store of wealth? It's really a store of wealth over time. And each one of that value creation has a decision in back of it. It has a decision to buy, a decision to when to buy, when to sell. But even more importantly, it has a decision of what to buy and what to sell. When is it that you go back into the stock market? What is it that you buy? How safe do you need to stay? How much risk are you willing to take? And how do you measure that? Do you understand those things? How do you learn about them? Where do you go? Most people don't know. And I'm just realizing how much there is that most people don't know. And that excites me, because what we're going to be doing inside the financial clinic moving forward is really learning step by step what it's going to take to make some difference in your life, what it's going to take. Before we get, almost hit the top of the hour here, and we're going to take 15 more minutes or so. If you have any questions, you can start putting them in the chat for me right now, because I can take a few questions. But what I also want to show you here is something that I prepared. It's a little handout that I'm going to be giving each one of you by email at the end of this. And let me just see if I can get to the right page. Here we go. What I've done for you is come up with this little worksheet. This is called the Financial Clinic 4-column worksheet. And I want to invite you to take some of the things that you wrote me that, or you feel are holding you back in your life in terms of money. And I want you to consider that there is a little worksheet that you can use that will begin, like be a beginning point with yourself. This is all about mindset, but it's also about heart set. What is breaking your heart? What is not working with money? I really believe that that we take, as women, we take things quite seriously, and we want to make sure that things are working, and we get very upset and worried when they're not. Very much like a medical clinic that you go to with symptoms, I want to invite you to look upon the financial clinic as a place that you can take your symptoms. And you can really actually understand what symptoms are affecting you. So in the first column, I invite you to just write down in the first column and spend some time with yourself. Just ask, what's wrong? What's not working as it relates to my money? This is just between you and yourself. And I'll email you this worksheet. This worksheet has really done wonders for me, also for my clients years and years ago. We've decided to really put a spotlight on what was not working. So there are columns here you can just write out, well, what is not working in your life? And I think as one of you wrote here in the chat tonight, that debt, you were suffering with some debt. Well, you could put that as an example. Debt. Well, that's not working because I owe too many people too much money. Okay. So you're just listing it here without emotion. Try to be objective. And what is it about that that's hurting you? What's hurting? Well, I know debt hurts. Debt hurts. So in the second column, you want to be clear on what are the effects of that. So you take each thing that you wrote in the first column and you pull it over to the second column and you answer additional questions about that. So for about debt, for example, you would ask, what effects does it have on me? Debt. What effects does it have on me? How is it showing up in my life? What effects does it have on me? How does it make me feel? And you write that down in the second column here. This is quite revealing to you. This will be an interesting exercise for you. Now, the third column, you're going to pull over again. You're starting with what's wrong and the debt. Let's say, let's be continuous on that topic. Debt. What's wrong is debt. What effect does it have on me? Well, for example, it makes me feel like I'm behind the barrel every month. I don't have enough money at the end of the month. I have more bills than I do money at the end of the month. It affects my life. It affects my well-being. It affects how I feel about myself. But then in the third column, this is important. What is threatened? What's at stake? And what's it costing you? And here you can really get personal. You can answer this very personally. You can say, well, gosh, that debt is really costing me my self-esteem. You can get real personal with yourself. What is at stake and what's it costing you? You might even say, well, how long has it been this way? What is it costing you? And in the fourth column, this is interesting. What's my part in it? Now we're getting down to, well, whose fault is this anyway? How is it? What is my part in it? What have I been doing that contributes to the debt? Or what have I not been doing that contributes to the debt? For example, what's my part in it? This fourth column helps to bring back to center what is really the case, and that is that we are all 100% responsible. My friend Sharon Lecter, as part of her wonderful motivational speech on the stage of World's Greatest Motivators said, you are your own CEO. The buck stops here. You are responsible 100% for everything that happens to you in your life financially. And it was, I think Jack Canfield also got up on the World's Greatest Motivators stage and taught, there is nobody outside of you. You are 100% responsible for everything that you've ever done, every thought that you've ever had, and every result that that's ever resulted in. And when we really take on a role of responsibility, there's this light bulb that comes on. It says, oh, you mean I can't blame him? I can't blame my dad. He didn't provide for me my, a high enough education. You mean I can't, come on. You mean I can't blame the government anymore for not, handing over enough of other more handouts? You mean I can't blame anybody else outside? You mean I can't blame my financial manager that I'm paying fees? After all, I'm paying him big fees. It's his fault. It's her fault that she didn't manage my money better. Or you mean I can't blame that that I didn't make enough money, or that my boss is always putting me down? You mean I can't blame anybody else? Well, yes, you can, but guess what? It doesn't really work for very long, or at least it could work for a lifetime, but that lifetime is getting a little bit not so happy anymore, correct? Because what I really do believe is that when we take responsibility for ourselves in terms of becoming an ace money manager, as women, we now take on a brand new day. We take on a brand new possibility. We take on a brand new perspective. And, as they used to say, you change your perspective, you change the reality. The perspective is, can I make a change? Can I make a change? Can I learn? Yes, you can. And here you are. So I want to just thank you so much for saying yes to yourself, for being here inside the free workshop, which is really titled The Pathway to Your Financial Freedom, because we're beginning at the beginning. We're beginning where it all begins, right here. This is you. It begins here. And so I just want to invite you to take some time and try this on. It might be a little painful, but I assure you that if you went into a clinic, like I was with my mother yesterday, I was just surrounded by people who are moaning and groaning with the symptoms, medical symptoms, and they're there to get, they want to find help. They want to find solutions to their health problems. And I would suspect that you are here for the same reason as it relates to your finances. You have some symptoms. You want to find some solutions. You want to find some help. And maybe you could go online, because there's so many resources now online to learn from. It's just that it's almost like doing it all alone. It's you and your computer. And that's fine, but to have someone that can help you learn quicker, faster, and achieve more, because I'll be happy to give you a roadmap. And with a roadmap, we can learn the hows a lot faster. Also, to learn from somebody who has been there and done that and has made a lot of mistakes and lots of, difficult hardships over time. I really do understand how to teach what works as it opposed to lots of things that don't work. And I have plenty of financial scars on my body to prove that. At any rate, let me take a moment to just check the chat and see if anybody has any questions for me. Just, does anybody have a final question here tonight? Okay, great. If you have a question as it relates to, what do you think about that? What do you think about the 4-column? Just let me know. What are your thoughts about the 4 columns that I just gave you? Does that feel like, kind of like, ooh, that's personal? Does that feel kind of personal? I can guarantee that it's going to kind of help you open up, and I'm going to send it to you, and I challenge you, even if you just take one, even if you just take one of the things, of your symptoms that is not working for you, and you take it all the way across those 4 columns, I guarantee you that you'll have a higher awareness of what it is that's affecting you and what you can do about it. And so then next week, what we're going to do, okay, here Jody says, looks great. Yeah, it feels transformational. It will be transformational. In fact, this is the whole point of it, is to transform your reality, your money reality, from what's not working to where can we move into a realization that, first of all, it's up to us. We're 100% responsible. And as I mentioned before, in terms of the empowerment of the financial clinic, I'm going to go back to this. Inside every woman is an ACE money manager. You have more power, more knowledge, and more experience than you know. You have more than you know. So I'm just here to really begin to empower you, to help you to see that in the area of money, you can begin now and you can create wealth. How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to start next week. Tomorrow. It's not next week. Tomorrow. We're going to start tomorrow. And I'm going to give you an amazing exercise in how to make it easy. It's called 1, 2, 3. Easy is ABC. Do, re, mi, ABC. It's going to be easy. Most women, I feel, have not really excelled in investment and money because of one reason. They think it's too hard. Have you ever had that feeling? It's just too hard. It's such a big world. It's just too hard, right? Well, I have some good news for you. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be hard. And I'm going to prove it to you tomorrow. I invite you to come back, because I'm going to show you how some of the easiest ways that you can create quality investments in your lifetime. And it can be as easy as 1, 2, 3, ABC. And it's something that you can learn. And if you can learn it, then you can master it. And it's so easy that actually, when I was teaching financial courses, I used to go to high schools and I used to teach these principles that I'm going to be teaching you tomorrow, these very, very simple principles to high school kids, and they loved it. And if any one of them just used these principles for the rest of their life, they probably would be more than millionaires today if they had just used one of the principles that I'm going to be teaching you tomorrow. And if you use all of them, you can start today and accelerate your life. And I don't even care what age you are, because it's not too late. It's not too late. There are tools available. There are real tools available. The how is learnable, on how to really create the kind of returns that you're going to need in your portfolios, in your money, so that you can have a retirement, that you can accelerate your retirement, that you can get out of debt, that you can accelerate, have the retirement that you need, retire with enough money so that you can feel secure, and then eventually have the kind of financial freedom that we all want, not only to fund our dreams and have the impact that we want to have in our lives, but also to really do great things in the world and feel well about ourselves. So this is all about financial wellness, financial well-being, and we've got all kinds of time. There's more time that you have more time than you think you do, and you also have a lot more knowledge. You're standing on a lot more knowledge right now than you think you have. So I invite you to come back next week. Let me just see if there's any final questions in the chat. Anne says, get real. Right, and get real. That's 100% responsible for our own money. I like that, Anne. All right, well, I don't see any final questions, but I invite you to come tomorrow. And having tried on the hat, tried on the 4 columns just a little bit to see if we can look at writing the mindset so that you can begin with a 100% responsibility mindset. The buck starts here. We are the CEOs of our own life. I'm going to show you how. Tomorrow, we're going to start with real money talk for women. And it's going to be easy as 1, 2, 3, ABC. We're going to have a lot of fun tomorrow. Meet me right back here, the same time, same station. And thank you for joining me tonight. I've had a lot of fun. I hope you have too. Bye for now, everyone.